What's up? What is happening, guys? Welcome in. This is the practice squad. I'm Angelo. This is Storm. You know how it is. And we are giving our second run and trying to do a little bit of video with this podcast. Hopefully all you guys out there enjoyed the first run. Definitely some highs and lows, figuring it out, technology and shit like that. But you know what? It went well enough that we're about to give it a second shot. Ain't that right, bud?
Hey, that's what we're here to do. We're not only giving the people what they want through voice, we're actually giving the people what they want through video, because who doesn't want to see my face? Yours is to be, left unknown, but at least the people get to see my face.
Lovable teddy bear. Who doesn't want to watch you for an hour and a half and listen to the Solid Sports Talk? That's just an added bonus, right? They're here for you.
And give me a big old hug, that's all.
The people are going to subscribe for Storm. All right, that's been decided now. Anyway, a ton of stuff has happened since we've last been here at the mic, and we're going to start off with something that happened last Thursday night, and it's always a bummer that we only get to come on the mics once a week. We're both busy guys, both working full-time. But on Thursday night, as the Cleveland Browns were about to seal their 21-7 win against the Pittsburgh Steelers, Myles Garret hits Mason Rudolph. All hell breaks loose, and before you know it, Myles Garret is swinging Mason Rudolph's own helmet at his temple. Hopefully he didn't hit the soft spot. It looks like he's all right.
He did. We would have known if he hit the soft spot.
I think we would have. But anyway, I just kind of want to know what your overall reaction to this was. What do you think in the end, ultimately, the suspension would be or should be? Kind of just want to hear your thoughts, man.
Well, first of all, I want to say I'm very upset with Myles Garret because I had him as my favorite for sacks leader with the value, and he was only 2.5 sacks back in the league.
He was actually pretty close. He's bony, man.
So he was right there. But you know what? Nothing justifies using a helmet as a weapon, obviously. I know Rudolph, punched him in the groin or, tried to rip his helmet off or whatever happened before that. And, you could say that Garrett might have hit him late, or I don't think he did. But what Garrett did, it can't be justified. So to me, I still thought the suspension was a little extreme. I knew it would be around a season.
It's still indefinite right now, right? They haven't made anything.
He's appealing, and I read this today actually on ESPN, I think it was. According to the CBA, you cannot give a player an indefinite suspension. It has to have a time frame to it.
Okay.
So that's an appeal, and apparently back in 2007, I think there was a player that did this in a practice preseason game.
Okay.
And he only got 2 preseason game suspension and 1 regular season game suspension.
And he swung a helmet at someone?
Apparently.
Now, do you know if the other guy was also wearing a helmet?
Not sure.
Okay,
I don't know if it was so you don't know the same extreme. But to me, I think it'll be a full season. And, it is justified. I understand his point, of what happened in the past. But you can't be doing that stuff, man. It's uncalled for. I understand. I understand you have Pouncey punching you, and you have DeCastro holding you back, and Rudolph's charging you for initial reactions to do what he did, but you can't. You got to be smarter than that.
Yeah, so first and foremost, I agree with you. That sort of action, swinging a helmet at someone's head who is not wearing a helmet, is egregious, really can't be tolerated.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm not defending Myles Garrett's ultimate action. He obviously lost his cool. He saw red, whatever you want to call it, and he seemed honestly apologetic afterwards when he had a chance to cool off. And so in the initial interview or in the initial press conference, not really, but you're still fired up from the game. When you had a day to come back to it.
Especially since there was only 8 seconds left.
Absolutely. So I do think that he does feel a strong amount of remorse. And for people who have talked about Myles Garret as a person, he has had some incidents where he's been overly aggressive on the field, but as a person, really great person, really deep thinker. So I don't think his intent was to seriously injure Mason Rudolph. Nonetheless, though, cannot happen. I am surprised that Mason Rudolph didn't get any sort of suspension because
or fine. Did he get fined?
He got fined, yes, but he did not get a suspension because it really is clear that this dude is the instigator, and he continued to escalate the situation until the point that it got to. So obviously, down at the bottom of the pile, they're both jawing. I would love to know what was said because I think whatever happened there may have had something to do with it.
Definitely triggered it a little bit.
Whether Garrett said something or Rudolph said something, I don't know. I'm just nosy and would love to know what the hell was said.
You have to think Garrett was in Rudolph's grill all night long.
Yeah,
he was having a field day with that offensive line.
He put a little extra something when he was laying on top of him. But Rudolph then was the first one to initiate trying to get the helmet off. He was the first helmet puller. Like you said, he did hit Myles Garret in the groin then. And then after Myles Garret was pulled away from Mason Rudolph then decides to charge at Myles Garret with no helmet, knowing that he's exposed. So once again, I don't I don't knock Mason Rudolph as much as I do Myles Garret. Once again, what we really have to look at is the final action and the biggest action. But I think Mason Rudolph has gotten off a little easy here. Marquise Pouncey, I'm fine with that suspension because I know his excuse was I'm protecting my quarterback. I saw red. You could say the same thing about Myles Garret. Say, I see some dude jawing at me and charging at me after he already tried to rip my helmet off and hit me in the groin. It didn't even look like to me, and I don't know what Myles Garret was thinking, it looked like he was just trying to like swing at him and he just happened to still be holding on to the helmet. However, you got to drop it. Like, I forget when it was, but back a few years ago, Andre Johnson for the Texans got in a fight
with Cortland Finnegan.
Cortland Finnegan. And they had the helmet off, and Andre Johnson threw that helmet to the side, and they went at it like men.
And I think they only got like a game or two apiece for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So I do think the rest of the season should be the maximum for Myles Garret. Now, there is an article in the NFL rules that says if you use a helmet as a weapon, it's a 15-yard penalty and a disqualification from the game. There's no talk about any sort of suspension. Now, it is different because Mason Rudolph was not wearing a helmet.
Right, it was Rudolph's helmet.
Exactly. So it is a little different. So I think a 6-game suspension for Garret is more than enough. You shouldn't let it go into next season. That's way too much.
I definitely agree there. And, for me, like, Rudolph, like you said, he was pretty much the instigator. And for him to start crying, Wolf calling the cowards, he reminds me of that little frat boy that said, my daddy's a lawyer, blah, blah, blah.
Don't give me that BSO
like
that's Bush League. Like, come on, man. We all saw the tape. We can see that you're sitting there ripping at his helmet first, getting all pissed off because you've been eating the freaking mud all night, man.
I scrolled those memes for hours.
I can't tell you how many times I saw the one where his head's dented in and he's got the googly eye.
James said that one too.
In all seriousness, before we start to joke about it, I am glad that he didn't hit him with the crown of the helmet. Because this could have been a
crown of the helmet or just anywhere in the head, like you said, soft spot, anything like that.
Thankfully, it was the underside of the helmet that hit him, kind of where the foam padding is. If he hits him with the top, like I said, the crown of the helmet, anywhere on the skull, that could very easily crack a skull, cause some serious damage.
Right.
So
very fortunate.
Everyone in the situation is very fortunate that is not what it escalated to. And to me, because that had potential to happen, that's the reason why I think 6 games for him instead of 1 or 2.
I'm completely content. I'm completely okay with the rest of the season. Just bummer for my Sacks pick.
Yeah, I get that. Bummer for the Steelers, too. As we saw on, as I sent you the meme, it said the Steelers got the worst punishment they could have after this incident. The fact that Mason Rudolph did not get suspended for any games.
Oh, man, that's terrible.
I can't imagine he's going to look any better after this incident. You know what? He has
I don't know how
looked
he's
good
not in concussion protocol. Like, I have no idea how he didn't get knocked out.
This is the second time. Like, didn't he get knocked out the one time?
And they made him walk off the field
because the medical cart wasn't working.
There was the other meme with him. Just digress really quick. There was the other meme with him with his face mask off. When they were going to stretcher him, and he was walking off, and there was Mason Rudolph just doesn't know how to wear a helmet. So, not to joke on the guys.
The one positive is that this will have created memes for at least the duration of this season, if not until Mason Rudolph retires from football. Anyway, we got to move on to some other stuff some other things that are a little bit more recent. We are going to stick with the NFL here, a topic that I'm not super excited to talk about because I totally missed here. But we have to because it was a great game. It was a statement game, and it really says a lot about 2 powerhouses or supposed powerhouses in the AFC. I'm talking about that game on Sunday where the Baltimore Ravens stood their ground at home and put a beat down on the visiting Houston Texans.
It's an understatement.
Beat them 41-7. Lamar Jackson has 4 total touchdowns. Storm, what do you have to make of all of this?
Yeah, I mean, I picked Baltimore to win. Not by that much, though. I thought maybe Houston had a chance to cover. I think it wound up closing at like 5.5 when we talked.
Yeah, it was
at 4.5, so I thought, field goal or something like that. But, man, I'll tell you what. The NFL just doesn't have an answer for Lamar Jackson right now. Whether he's running Hollywood Brown, I mean, they just look good. Both tight ends, Mark Andrews, Hayden Hurst, right? Is that his other name?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
And even not even just the offense, but that defense, man. That defensive line is feasting right now, and they look really, really good. And
past couple weeks, man.
Yeah, Houston's O-line suspect at best, so you expect them to eat a little bit. But boy, I mean, they're built the way a Super Bowl champion's supposed to be built, and that's running the ball and built on defense, and they're doing it all right now. I mean, it's not even just Lamar Jackson running the ball. Mark Ingram is unbelievable. Like, he came out, like, no one knew what he was going to have left after he left the Saints, you know what I mean?
Because he spent so much time as a secondary back, too. He hadn't been a workhorse since Kamara got
and then all of a sudden, he's a bruiser, man. And him standing up for Lamar Jackson in the press conference afterwards, too, that team's just got it going right now.
Yeah, that locker
they're
room
scary.
seems like they're really vibing right now, man.
I love when.
And honestly, that's what Harbaugh's known for. He's not X's and O guys. He's a rah-rah guy.
He took a chance with Lamar Jackson. I mean, his
Absolutely.
career was depending on that, or his coaching career with the Ravens, I should
say.
say.
From Flacco to Lamar Jackson, polar opposites. They had to totally change the offense and the culture on that team.
He did great. Yeah, but like right now, this team is the best team in the AFC and probably in the NFL, no question. But if you have to go into New England in January, and Billy B already saw you once, I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago. I just don't want to put all my eggs in their basket yet for an AFC Conference Championship
especially
game yet.
It's tough because of how young he still is. You haven't seen him yet. Like last year in that playoff game against the Chargers, he shit the bed. He had like 4 completions until like midway through the fourth quarter. It was terrible. No, but I'm with you. I'm not going to go on about the Ravens too much because you kind of hit a lot of the points. Like, let's just be real. Lamar is damn good.
Betting favorite in Vegas right now for the MVP.
Plain and simple.
Man.
Like, I'm done with all the exceptions and the excuses about why he's succeeding. I mean, this guy just makes freaking plays. And I'll be the first to admit, I underestimated what he was going to be able to do in this offense.
Absolutely.
I was very skeptical throughout the first couple weeks of the season, and they have played some pretty cupcake teams, so you got to take that in consideration. But man, this guy is good. And with that run game, not just Mark Ingram, but they also got Gus Edwards rolling right now, man. Like you said, Hollywood Brown's a burner. Willie Snead's a reliable guy. Mark Andrews about as good as a tight end as you can find in the league right now. That offense is freaking humming. And then, like you said, the defense. I don't know what the hell switch they flipped, but ever since
Marcus Peters.
Yeah, ever since they got Marcus Peters, and granted, that also timed out a little bit with when Jimmy Smith was getting back into the lineup. But whatever happened there, the whole defense has just erupted. They went from being like a bottom 5-7 defense to arguably one of the top 3 defensive units in the league, if only because of just how fast they fly around the field and their ability to make big game-shifting plays.
And so I forget what his name is, the DN there. Judon? Is his name Judon?
Yeah, Judon, yeah.
I mean, he was ripping apart what the hell's his name?
Tunsil?
Yeah. I mean, that's who you gave up 2 first-round picks for, and that man was having himself a field day on that guy.
Yeah,
and you're going to have to pay Tunsil? Ooh, I'd be scared if I was Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, so I'll kind of use that as a segue.
Yeah,
no, you're fine. That's perfect, actually, because I can segue then to talking about the Texans, who I reluctantly admit were my pick to win this game. And honestly, I was just really disappointed watching this game. I'm not a Texans fan, but as anybody who listens to the podcast knows, I am a big Deshaun Watson fan, and man, was this a really disappointing endeavor for him. Like Deshaun, I really did expect better. I've come to know you as the guy who can lift your team up when you're struggling, and even if you're not winning the game, you're keeping your team within spitting distance of getting the win. So I really expected this to be a duel between 2 MVP frontrunners for both of them, to duel it out, both have some highs, some lows, and it come down to the last minute. But Deshaun, 169 yards, 18 of 29 passing, threw an interception. Not good enough. And I get it. He was sacked 6 times, and that kind of brings us all to what the Texans' primary issue is. That is the offensive line. And obviously they gave away 2 picks for Tunsil, who isn't having the immediate impact. And the rest of that offensive line is no good either. But I got to put some of this on Deshaun as well. He holds the ball for too long, and it really showed in this game against a defense that can fly around like Baltimore. And I don't know whether to put that solely on him or on Bill O'Brien's play calling. Maybe he's got to get more creative and not just be sending these speedsters in DeAndre Hopkins and Kenny Stills and Will Fuller when he's out there on deep post routes and fly routes and shit like that. But he needs to get the ball out quicker. So I was just disappointed. This moves Deshaun firmly out of the MVP conversation. I don't even think he should be considered anymore.
Yeah, right.
It was that bad of a game in that big of a moment against one of the 2 guys who are in the conversation with you. It's between Lamar and Russ right now.
Yeah, and I think there's only one person or 2 people outside looking in. That's McCaffrey and Mahomes. And they probably won't give it to a running back.
Mahomes isn't going to do it because his team isn't good enough, and he missed those couple games. And it's going to be too tough for McCaffrey to win it as a running back if they don't make the playoffs, which at this point I don't think they will. And then real quick on the Texans defense, it's bad. They lost J.J. Watt, and it's showing. Those DBs are slow. They're not great at covering and not having a pass rush, giving the quarterback, especially a mobile one like Lamar Jackson, all day to figure out what he's going to do. it doesn't work. Like, I know the Colts are struggling a little bit as well. I still think Houston's going to get into the playoffs, either winning the division or as a wild card. I think they're good enough to do that. But beyond the first weekend of the playoffs, I really don't see much.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely missing J.J. Watt. I mean, when he left, he was leading the league in pressures by a good amount.
Yeah,
and
obviously.
That gives your cornerbacks not much time to cover these receivers, and you're starting to show that they really can't cover these receivers.
Even in his advanced age, he still showed that he knew how to get after the quarterback. He played the run smartly. He was good at sealing the edge. So he's obviously missed on that Texans team. So congratulations, Baltimore. I agree with you. I think they're the best team in the AFC right now. Obviously, I have concerns if they have to face Belichick a second time. That's not easy for anyone. But New England also has their concerns as well, which we will talk about in the back half of the show. Anyway, moving on, we got one more NFL topic before we switch gears a little bit. And I know you're super thrilled to talk about this, but we got to talk a little bit.
Every freaking week, man.
I know, but you know what? We talk less Cowboys than almost anybody out there. And you know what? Right now, they are kind of a story. They're fighting for the division. They've been hit or miss, super talented team that hasn't quite lived up to expectations. But this past weekend against Detroit, Dak Prescott went off. Dude went 29 for 46, 444 yards. That's the Wendy's faux. That's that Wendy's stat line there. And then he also capped that off with 3 touchdowns. They beat the Lions by, I think it was 34-27. I don't have the score written down here, but I'm pretty sure that's right.
Yeah, it was 8 points.
34-26 and 35-27.
I think it was, yeah.
Ballpark, they beat him by around a touchdown.
7.5 point spread. So.
Yeah, beat him by around a touchdown. And although Dak went off, Zeke struggled a little bit. So first I want to talk about Dak, though.
Okay.
How much stock are you putting into this performance by Prescott?
I mean, you have to. Detroit's had a decent secondary before this, but, I mean, he's leading the league in yards right now. He has 9 picks, which is a little concerning, giving the ball up a little bit. But, I mean, just to round out the top 5 in quarterbacks right now, it's Phillip Rivers, Jameis Winston, Patrick Mahomes, and Jared Goff. So I don't know how much stock you can put into yards.
In yards.
In yards,
okay.
yards. We know Jameis
I
Winston's
thought that was
leading the league.
interceptions.
We know Jameis Winston's way ahead of there.
Well, yeah, Phillip Rivers, Jared Goff, and Jameis Winston made sense. But as soon as you said Patrick Mahomes, anyway, continue. Sorry.
But, yeah, I mean, you just look at it. The last 2 weeks, what's he have? Like almost 800 yards now because he had 300 and some yards last week. I mean, all of a sudden, Randall Cobb looks like his old former self. Michael Gallup learned how to catch a ball over the offseason. I mean, he's been playing well
at least mid-season. Early in the year.
He looked rough.
He's the reason Dak has a couple of those picks.
Yeah, that's also true. And then, I mean, Amari Cooper, I mean, he's crisp, man. Yeah. He's just really good. You look at that team around him, and it makes sense, but – yeah, you have to consider him as one of the best quarterbacks right now. And it pains me to say it, but yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if I go there. I think he cracks the top 10 now for me. I don't know if I would say the best. But I agree with you. I'm putting a fair amount of stock into this game, as well as his performance over the past couple weeks. This dude, and we were both kind of low on him, game manager, not really sure if he should make that next level money, but I'm starting to come around. This guy really has been impressing me a lot. And I know it was against the Lions, who have struggled in the past couple weeks against the pass, but it was also on a day where Zeke was locked down. And the big criticism of Dak has been he cannot win games unless Zeke is rolling, gets at least 20 touches, 80 to 100 yards. That's how the Cowboys win, and that's the only way the Cowboys win. Obviously, that narrative is changing now, and it's in part because of how well Dak is playing. So I'm watching him play these games that Zeke has struggled, and he just looks like he's stepping up to the challenge. The issue for the Cowboys is what we've been talking about. It's coming out slow, but once Dak gets cooking, once it seems like the offense saying, all right, Dak, take us home, he's performing. So you know what? He's starting to make me comfortable as a guy that you can live and die by throwing 35 times a game if the moment calls for it.
I think with that talent around him, I think if the talent increased a little bit, I wouldn't trust him with that.
What do you mean?
Like wide receiver talent? If the wide receiver talent dropped, like say you didn't have Cooper and crew,
obviously.
I wouldn't. If he had what some of these other quarterbacks are throwing with, I don't think he would succeed. Well,
there's very few quarterbacks that can really succeed without having at least 2 skilled pass catchers and a decent run game. Like you look, it's Brady,
Aaron Rodgers.
You can't even say Mahomes yet because he's always had elite skill players around him. Who else is there?
Yeah, you got
that can really succeed without. Like Lamar's doing it in a different way. And Russell Wilson.
Yeah, Russell Wilson. Yeah,
and those guys are the creme de la creme either because they've been there for so long and they've been doing it. And obviously we're seeing Brady now struggling without those weapons. So obviously you have to take the weapons into consideration. But, man, Dak looks like a player right now. And then you add the intangibles that people had been sold on since he got into the league. I'm finally saying it, Jerry. Pay the man. Pay the man.
The $40 million?
Yeah, you see what LA paid for Jared Goff. I would be way more confident that Dak Prescott is not going to drop off like Jared Goff. Like I wouldn't pay him $40 million. I'd pay him. I guarantee him more than Jared Goff had,
so
and give
like
him
115 or
something.
Like
115, 116, and keep that base salary right at the same rate at around like 32.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so as I mentioned,
mean, he's going to get it at this point.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely going to get it.
If they miss the playoffs, I don't know if he's going to get it.
It may be tough for him to figure out how to let him get it because they've already given up so much money in other contracts, in particular Ezekiel Elliott's contract, who got that $90 million with 50 big ones guaranteed, $50 million guaranteed. He, the last 2 games, has not looked like the Ezekiel Elliott that the Dallas Cowboys thought they were paying for. He hasn't eclipsed 100 yards. I think he's fallen to 8th in the league in total rushing, even though they're still feeding the beast. Do you think the Cowboys should regret giving Zeke that contract this offseason?
I don't think they should regret it just yet. I mean, we're only talking about 2 games here. He's been running pretty well beforehand. I mean, he hasn't been the Zeke that we've known over the last 3 years, but he's been playing pretty well. I mean, I'm not regretting it yet. I mean, let me preface this. You really shouldn't be paying a running back that kind of money anyway. But since they felt like they had no choice, and they're probably regretting paying him over Dak right now because
should have just paid Dak first.
You got to think you still have Cooper and Dak coming up, so they're going to be in trouble. There's going to be something's got to give here soon. But I wouldn't regret it just yet.
Yeah, I'd regret it. I wasn't a fan of this deal to begin with. I saw as a Rams fan what has happened with exactly, and it's largely in part because of that. Because running backs, although you can have some that are a bit more of a game changer, they really are for the most part interchangeable in regards to the approximate value that you're going to get out of the position. It really is about the offensive line. Sans some plays, like you see guys like Kamara and obviously Zeke and Christian McCaffrey can do some very, very special things, but the window in which they can do that is short. And it looks like Zeke has lost a step. Honestly, he looks like a bit more explosive version of what C.J. Anderson looked like last year when he was with the Rams. And the Rams pulled him off their couch. And Tony Pollard, when he's out there, looks pretty good. Honestly, the Cowboys would probably have as many wins if they didn't have Zeke and had a running back by committee. And they probably would have committed to Dak a little earlier in terms of handing him over the keys of the offense. So I think Zeke is a good player. I think that he does more good than bad when he is on the field. He improves the team. But is he worth that much money? I didn't think so in the offseason, and I definitely don't think so now.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see this week on who's worth more money because they have a huge test, and it's against that New England defense. So I don't know. I mean, I get what you're saying. I just think that they felt like they had to pay him, and they did. And like I said, I'm not a fan of giving those running backs that much money because really, when you look the last 3 years, they beat him into the ground too. I mean, he probably was leading the league in touches for the most part.
These running backs, I get where he was coming from. You got to make your money when you can make your money as a running back because your shelf life is so short. But from the franchise's perspective, I never understood it, and we're seeing now you could plug most professional running backs in behind that Dallas offensive line, and they can get you 40 to 50 yards like Zeke's been doing.
Yeah, I mean, even look at the last running back they had, DeMarco Murray, right? How they ran him into the ground, signed a big deal elsewhere, not going to mention where.
That was in Zeke's head, too. He saw what the Cowboys did to DeMarco Murray, the last guy who was winning rushing titles and getting close to 2,000 yards.
Because he knew if he didn't get the contract after this year, he wasn't going to get a bigger one because they were just going to straight run him into the ground this year too. So
yeah, well, it kind of looks like he's already been running into the ground because, like I said, he just does not look the same.
Maybe he's just eating in a different kind of way with all that money.
Maybe he's on that Cabo diet. Anyway, someone that I feel like we're both hoping returns to the football field looking the same is Tua Tagovailoa, who this last weekend, after he had just lit it up in the first half, had over 250 yards, threw a couple of touchdowns, goes out with a hip injury. Come to find out, he's going to need to undergo surgery out the remainder of the season. So I've got a couple of questions for you regarding this. We're going to answer them one at a time. Okay. The first is about Tua specifically. Do you think that this rules him out as potentially being the number 1 pick in the NFL draft?
I do, yeah. I think it's going to be Joe Burrow most likely. And it's nothing against Tua's injury. I just think Joe Burrow was the better player going into it as well. Before the injury, I think he was going to be the number 1 pick as long as he finished strong, through combine and all that. But yeah, to me, Tua shouldn't fall out of top 10, though. And if he does, someone's going to get themselves a steal going on. I mean,
someone's going to get themselves an Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, for real. That's exactly what's going to happen.
But same type of thing because he fell to 22nd.
He'll need work. I mean, Tua seems a little more raw than when you look at like a Joe Burrow or even like at this point, Justin Herbert's looked pretty well lately. But like, man, at first it was like this could be a Bo Jackson type injury, and then that kind of got flagged.
It is the Bo Jackson injury. It's just Bo Jackson kept playing.
Exactly.
Tua came out and is getting surgery right away.
Yeah, he already got surgery.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think he's going to miss the combine and stuff, but I think from what I heard, he'll be ready to play next season after he gets drafted. I think it's only like a 6 to 8 month recovery type deal.
And obviously with that type of thing, whoever drafts him will hopefully take their time, push it a little further if it feels like he needs to. But it's not something that will keep him from playing in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, if you're, say, Cincinnati, I mean, you're still going to have Andy Dalton when you have number 1 pick. You start Andy Dalton another year or something, let Tua fully get healthy.
Let Andy Dalton get beat up while you work on that offensive line.
Whoever the hell
you go with.
Because they're most likely going to be the number 1 pick at this point.
Yeah.
And if it's the Redskins, they're not going to take Tua anyway.
Nope.
They're going to take, probably a D-line or O-line or
who knows? No one cares about Washington.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't think he was going to be the number 1 pick going into it, but he's definitely not going to be the number 1 pick now. And if he falls out of the top 10, people should be ashamed of themselves. Yeah,
I agree with you. I am ruling him out as a number 1 pick. It is a little worrisome because he isn't the biggest guy to begin with, and he has had a couple of he does have a bit of an injury history. So I do see Joe Burrow's going before him. And depending on how Herbert plays for Oregon down the stretch, if he plays well in the Pac-12 championship, if they sneak into the playoff and he looks good, maybe faces off against Joe Burrow, who knows? Maybe Herbert makes a case that he should be the number 1 guy because he is a bit more of a prototypical type NFL quarterback. But who knows? I honestly think that this injury, as long as it doesn't lead to recurring injuries down the line, could be a blessing in disguise for Tua. Look at what happened to Lamar Jackson. Now, granted, he fell to 32, but compared to the other quarterbacks in his draft, compared to Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, Josh Allen, who all fell on pretty terrible teams, what if Tua falls to the LA Chargers?
That thought ran through my head.
Like,
not
seriously,
even kidding.
what
not
if
even
Tua
kidding.
falls to the LA Chargers?
Yeah.
Like, or a team like that, the Denver Broncos.
Right.
Someone who has a solid foundation. He can come in and start. Yeah, they're just missing a quarterback to be a playoff team.
Even the Steelers, man.
You got the
with
Steelers.
That young
they start
defense.
to slide. Let me think who else there might be in. I don't think Carolina's going to fall that far. Maybe Tampa Bay.
Yeah, Tampa
he could
Bay.
go to Tampa.
They still have some build pieces needed, but
Detroit.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of teams that he could fall to and probably have a pretty good time of things right out the gate. So I don't think it's horrible for him, once again, as long as it's not an injury that continues to give him issues throughout his career.
Right.
I think that's a big kicker. If I were NFL teams, I'd be a little nervous.
Yeah, exactly.
But after 10 picks, he's 100% worth a flyer. So many people have said he is the best quarterback prospect they have ever seen.
Yeah.
Dude's ceiling is ridiculously high.
And I mean, again, you look at the injury history as those 2 ankle injuries the last 2 years. I mean, there is definitely going to be some concern there. So let me say, I would hope he doesn't fall out of top 10, but I think at the same point, I wouldn't be surprised if he fell out of top 10.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see how things progress as we get closer to the combine. Obviously, we'll see mock drafts and shit coming out. We'll be able to take a closer look at it.
Right.
But I still think he's going to be a high first-round draft pick. Anyway, kind of moving over a little bit, instead of just talking about Tua in general, we're going to talk about Alabama and the impact that this injury has on the team. Now, they are still ranked at number 5 in the college football playoff polls, but I can't imagine that they're really going to stay there with how some of other teams are doing. I'm assuming the committee will take into consideration the fact that Tua's not there, but I don't know. What do you think should happen? Do you think Alabama has a shot at making the college football playoff without Tua Tagovailoa?
Well, I mean, you lose Tua, and then you bring in Mac Jones, who is another 5-star quarterback recruit. I mean, they just churn him out. PFF has him ranked as the number 10 quarterback this week. Never started a game. He's going to be they have him ranked as the 10th quarterback. So for me, it's almost they're going to miss a little bit of a beat. But come on, look how well they always played without a quarterback to begin with. I mean, between Jalen Hurts and Tua, that was their first true quarterbacks lately, they've been succeeding before that. Then you throw in this other guy who seems to be another 5-star recruit. I mean, they got studs. I mean, what, 3 of their wide receivers are first-round picks, or 2 of their receivers are?
At least 2, yeah.
So I'm not going to count them out, but if they don't get into the conference championship game, I don't think they should be in the playoff.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been talking about this.
Exactly. That's kind of where I'm at. Like, especially now that your Heisman candidate isn't going. I'm sure this other guy, you said a 5-star recruit, I'm sure he's going to look great, and Alabama's just going to stomp all over whoever they have left on the schedule. But if Oklahoma and or Oregon win their conference championships, they should get in over Alabama without a question. Not getting to your conference championship is not good enough unless you're a one-loss team and everyone else who won a Power 5 conference championship that is in that same hunt as you is a 2-loss team. That's the only reason.
Yeah, and I mean, let's not forget that Alabama still has to play Auburn, who has a pretty good defense that will give the this rookie
and a quarterback
or freshman
that can do
quarterback
some
some
stuff.
problems.
I mean, Bo Nix hasn't looked great all season, but
True
he's
freshman,
at his moment. Yeah, true freshman, exactly.
But I mean, they still got to beat them, so there's a chance they might even lose to Auburn. I don't think they will, but there's a chance.
Yep, absolutely, there's a chance. I just kind of hope that we have kind of a refreshing college football playoff without Alabama. I do love watching them because they are an excellent team. But this year, especially without Tua, I think there are more than 4 teams above them that are more deserving of making it based off of their resume and just their overall performance.
Yeah, I mean, if we know anything about the committee, anything's possible with them. So
anything is possible. But I think this gave the committee an out to not bump Alabama back in.
We'll see what happens when he plays this week.
I think there were plenty of people that still thought Alabama was the best team, or at least a top 2 or 3 team in the country. Okay.
There's just so much SEC bias in that committee, though.
There is. And, it's kind of for good reason. The SEC is a really deep conference with good teams.
For the most part,
When you watch the NFL draft, 30% of the people in the top 2 rounds are from the SEC. And that's just an arbitrary number, but I would bet you it's right around that ballpark, if not higher.
All right, we need a statistician. We need someone for the show to look that up for us.
Don't you work with numbers and shit?
Yeah, I'm trying to do a show here. I'm not going to be running stats, too.
Should have the stats pre-show, goddammit.
Move on.
Anyway, move on to kind of the big game of the college football weekend. That's when number 2 Ohio State faces off against what?
Oklahoma.
Oh, sorry, I totally skipped the topic. I'm just so
gotta keep them in mind, James. I'll tell you what.
We not only need a statistician, we need someone to permanently keep me in check. Maybe like a little zapper that zaps me because I do this way too much. I just get excited. I move on down the schedule. Maybe I should just get better at note taking. Anyway, and it's because I forgot to increase the font on that question.
Excuses.
Or increase the size. Look, see, it's proof. James, you see it, right? See, it looks like a question. Whatever, y'all suck. Anyway. So Oklahoma had a big comeback against Baylor this weekend. After a rough first half by Jalen Hurts, they ended up winning the game 34-31. I want to know if you think that this proves that they deserve to be in the college football playoff.
What was that lead Baylor blew? 28-3.
Yeah.
Sound familiar? Did you see Atlanta Falcons?
I didn't even think about that.
Atlanta Falcons had the head shake meme or the emoji.
I didn't even put 2 and 2 together.
So they blew a 28-3. Well, I'll tell you what, Oklahoma's getting no respect from this committee right now. I mean, that K-State loss must just be like the Black Plague on their resume right now because they only moved up 1 spot after coming back against a good Baylor team. I mean, they haven't been great.
They were undefeated.
Yeah, they were good going into it. They've had some luck along the way. But I don't understand. I just don't understand how they can't be ahead of a team like Utah. I could see them being behind a team like Bama and Oregon, but I don't know how you can't jump a team like Penn State, like Utah. I don't understand. It doesn't make sense to me. Jalen Hurts is still playing really, really well. That team is still playing really well. Show them some love. I think that team would be a lot of fun out there, close. But at this point, I don't think they have a shot if they only moved up 1 spot after that comeback.
I think they do have a shot. I know the committee isn't giving them a ton of love right now. They really are still harping on that K-State loss. And then what was it last week? They squeaked by Iowa State.
And the comeback from Baylor.
Yeah, and then obviously they came back after the rough first half from Baylor. But I do think they have a shot, and I really think it's going to come down to the conference championships, and it's going to be between Oregon and Oklahoma. I think Oregon, all things even, they both run the table, and they both have similar victories in the conference championship. Oregon gets in over Oklahoma. But if Oklahoma, balls out for the rest of their last 2 games, and then there's a slaughtering in the Big Ten championship, or not Big Ten, in the Big 12. The Big 12 championship, and Oregon has a real nail biter with Utah or even loses to Utah, Oklahoma absolutely can get in because, and we'll talk about Penn State in a second, but Penn State has a shot if they beat Ohio State this weekend and go on to win their conference championship. Otherwise, no. Utah, or I don't think Utah would get in over Oklahoma. I feel like the committee,
even if they beat Oregon, because they're ranked higher than them right now.
Even if they beat Oregon, I don't think that they would get in. I feel like the committee does take into consideration the television draw, the fan base draw, and I just don't think Utah's quite there yet. And I also think if Utah beat Oregon, it would be a squeaker, whereas I think Oklahoma has a potential to win their conference championship by 30. So maybe I'm a little biased because I just think Oklahoma's a fun team to watch. I love watching, what the hell, not Cliff Kingsbury, Lincoln Riley running offense. And I think Jalen Hurts is a great story and has been playing way above anybody's expectations this year. But I also think that they're a team that has a higher ceiling. I could see Oklahoma winning a playoff game. I don't see Oregon doing that.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, if everything falls right, I think Oklahoma would wind up playing Baylor again for the Big 12 championship. So, I mean, if they, like you said, if they come out fire in that time around. I think they just showed
that they can beat Baylor by 3 or 4 touchdowns.
That's true. I mean, if they play, they just can't start out flat.
Because Jalen Hurts just looked so bad in that first half. Had some ugly interceptions. He wasn't being protected like he has been throughout the season. So I think if they get Baylor again, you got to watch out because they'll run right over them.
Yeah, and that's assuming Georgia loses to LSU, because if Georgia beats LSU in the SEC championship game,
then everything stays the same. Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. So. There's a lot of variables. Yeah. And once again, it all comes down to the conference championships. But I 100% believe Oklahoma has a shot, and they showed against Baylor that if they do get that shot, they're worthy of it.
Man, there's only like 3 weeks left of college football.
I know, man. And then you got to wait like 6 weeks till the national championship because the bowl season lasts 5. It's
bowl season is a gambling dream, man.
There's too many bowls. There shouldn't be like the Tic Tac Bowl and the Monroe Muffler and Tire
Bowl.
Bowl.
Baby. More games to make money.
5 or like 6 and 6 teams that no one cares
about. I think you need 7 wins to get in, right?
It's the worst of college football, man. It just shows how average almost all of college football is and how unwatchable it is for me. Yeah, they make money. Degenerate gamblers like yourself can make some money. Whatever. Anyway, moving on to the topic that I tried to dive into a little prematurely. My bad, guys. We're going to talk about the Ohio State versus Penn State game coming up this weekend. To me, it's inarguably the game of the weekend. Big Ten championship implications on the line. Ohio State is at number 2 right now. Penn State is at 8.
8.
Penn State sits at 8. So I want to know what you expect out of this game. Do you think Penn State has a shot?
So one of our big fans of the pod, Mama Dashba, her family.
Shout out Mama D.
Big Penn State fan, and I hate to disappoint you right here, but Penn State has no shot. I'm sorry. They're a 19-point favor or 19-point dog right now with good reason. This is the best Ohio State team I have seen in quite some time.
And there have been some real good Ohio State teams
Chase
recently.
Young coming off the suspension. I mean, you can see that Penn State's had some struggles with protecting Clifford lately. I mean, then you look on the other side, you look at Justin Fields, who's a Heisman candidate still, even though Joe Burrow's balling out. Justin Fields could put his name on the, in the mix there with a big performance against Penn State this weekend. I don't see it. I mean, James Franklin typically has his team ready to play an Ohio State game.
He does.
But he just sucks at coaching so much that he blows it every time. James Franklin can recruit, but the guy can't coach. I mean, when you look at it, and him in big games, he just struggles. And he does have some flaws in the other games, but they're blowing him out. It normally gets overlooked. So when you see it in a big game, in a close game, like when they blew a 2-touchdown lead against Ohio State 2 years ago or whatever it was, you see his flaws really come out. And that's why I just can't give him the chance. I just can't. I think Ohio State rolls.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the positive, the good news for Penn State fans. So I'm talking to, like you said, Mama D. Thanks for listening. I know you are. That's to you as well as the entire Dashba and Young clan who support the blue and white of the Nittany Lions. We're going to start with the good news for you. I think it's going to be closer than the spread suggests. So the spread is currently sitting at right around 20 points. I'm not sure how.
18 and a half, 19.
Yeah, last I read, it was an article yesterday was sitting around. But still, it's right around little less than a 3-touchdown spread. I think it's going to be closer than that because these two teams usually do play it close. The last 2 games that they've played, Ohio State won by a point.
Right.
And I think in both those years,
James
although
Franklin
Ohio State wasn't quite as good, Penn State also wasn't quite as good as they are this year. And both teams know that there's a lot at stake. Like I said, conference championship implications on the line. they're going to bring it this week. With that being said, though, Penn State has no chance. I agree with you. They've got no shot in this one. And I hate to say it because I really wish I could believe that Ohio State could get upset. But like you said, this is one of the best Ohio State teams ever. Honestly, one of the most statistically impressive teams ever. They rank number 1 in scoring offense and number 1 in scoring defense. Like, that's unheard of in college football when you have 100+ teams playing and teams who are playing nobodies all year in like the MAC 37 conference or
Maction, baby. Maction action tonight.
And they're playing against like D2 schools for half the year and throwing up 7-8 touchdown games. It's insane that they lead in both of those. So Penn State will probably be able to slow them down a little bit because their defense is pretty good. I believe they are, 17th in the country in total defense.
For sure.
But slowing down a team that averages over 51 points a game means holding them around 30, 35.
Exactly.
And that's being generous.
That's good.
That's being generous considering how much Justin Fields has balled out this year. I want to get this right. Dude, and this is, once again, college football. Dude has 2,164 yards, 31 touchdowns to 1 interception at a 69% completion percentage. So it's not quite Dwayne Haskins level, but the dude, he's accurate. He's not turning the ball over. Obviously, he's getting the ball in the end zone. Dude, I don't know how he's not in the Heisman conversation
he is. He's
right now.
I mean, when you look at,
right.
I mean, it's Joe Burrow and him at this point now with Tua getting hurt, I think. I mean, Justin Herbert's right there, but it's a two. And then you can look at their running back, Ohio State's running back as a potential candidate.
But nonetheless, so he's playing like a Heisman candidate.
For sure.
And honestly, I don't see Penn State being able, even if they hold them to 30, I don't see Penn State putting up 30. Now, it's interesting because when I was looking this up, they do rank 15th in the country in scoring offense. However, in passing offense and rushing offense, they rank 47th and 53rd, respectively. So what that tells me is that their defense has been able to put them in really, really good positions that I don't think they're going to be able to do against Ohio State. They're going to be working with a lot of long fields, probably not getting a lot of turnovers. Like I said, Justin Fields has only thrown 1 pick all year. Pretty sure those running backs don't fumble a lot. So I don't think they're really going to be able to move the ball that effectively on Ohio State. And they haven't seen a pass rusher like Chase Young this year. Like you said, he's going to be fresh off of that suspension.
Point to prove, too, because he was in the Heisman talk before
he's
number 1 pick.
He's going to be in the quarterback's face all day. So I hope I'm wrong. I hope this game is super competitive and Penn State shows they can win. But I feel like this is just going to be Ohio State letting Penn State kind of linger around, but really they got no
They'll
shot.
control the game. And I just want to get something off my chest. Shame on college football for moving that to a 12 o'clock start instead of keeping it at the nighttime.
I know. For real.
That's
Why
just
would they do that?
Unbelievable.
This is one of the games of the year. Penn State, Ohio State, both one loss between the two of them. Do you know what they moved to the primetime slot?
I don't remember what they moved to the primetime slot. But
it doesn't matter. Whatever it is, it's not as good as this game, man.
I mean, regardless, we know Ohio State's going to win, but it's still going to be a fun game.
This is in Ohio State, right?
Yeah, in Ohio State.
Still, those kids, they let them drink all day and prep for the game. No one would. I mean, some people like to start drinking at 8 in the morning, but
they're going to be starting at 4 in the morning.
That pissed me off because you got enough college football to watch at noon and at 3. Keep it at the late game.
Yeah. We'll have game day there, but we're not going to have it as a primetime game.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
I hate
ridiculous.
that. I have no idea why they would make that decision. Whatever. I think we've realized that the NCAA sucks. If we hadn't already, we do now. Anyway, I think I just threw a paper that I need, so give me 1 second.
Oh, my God. Throwing double-digit papers.
I'm just getting a little excited here because it's time to move off of college football and move to everybody's favorite end of the first half segment here on the Practice Squad. That's right. That is the drum roll sound of NFL Rapid Fire.
Rapid Fire.
So we've got 7 sweet NFL questions for you this week. So without any further ado, you ready to get started?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Question number 1. We're going to talk a little bit of Nick Foles here. Is Nick Foles already showing after that shoddy performance against or against who they play? Jeez, I don't even have it written down.
Indy.
Let me try this again.
Indy.
Rewind. It's NFL Rapid Fire. Question number 1. Is Nick Foles already showing that the Jags should have stuck with Gardner Minshew after that really poor performance against Indianapolis.
Can I blame coaching a little bit here?
Go on, blame coaching.
I mean, you just had a quarterback come off a shoulder injury, and you make him throw the ball 47 times. Listen, he still completed 70% of his passes. Now, I know he missed some big passes at big times. He didn't look all that well, but you can't make a quarterback coming off a shoulder injury throw 47 times. We thought he would be rusty. He looked a little rough. I'm still rolling with him, though. You got to see what you have in him. You paid him $88 million.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. He's obviously rusty coming off that shoulder injury. And like you said, they made him throw the ball way too much just coming off of, like you said, a shoulder injury. You can only expect so much out of the dude's arm.
10 weeks.
And I get it. They went down pretty quickly. Indianapolis controlled that game, so they had to throw to get back into it. You don't love seeing the 2 picks by Nick Foles, but I can't judge this guy after 1 week off of an injury like that. Ask me in 2 weeks, and we'll see if I have a different answer. All right, next question. Did the Rams show after that win in Chicago that they're still playoff contenders?
What? Playoff contenders? Serious?
I didn't stutter. I didn't stutter.
From that slop fest, this is the question you get out of it. The only thing we should get out of that game is that Mitch Trubisky finally got benched for what he deserves for sucking.
He sucks.
That's all it is. All right? That Rams offense still sucks. They're not good enough yet. They're not yet. Sorry.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but I wholeheartedly agree with you. No, the Rams are not playoff contenders. They beat Mitchell freaking Trubisky. Whoop-de-doo, Basil. No one cares. And they only put up 17 points. Like, I get it. Offensive line looked all right, and Gurley actually kind of looked like Gurley, even though he really didn't. It's just better than he's looked all year at like 94 yards. But, like, I don't trust that offensive line long-term, and Jared Goff still looked like trash. So, no, they're not playoff contenders. Get your shit together, Rams. We'll come back and try this again next year. All right. Do the Chargers need to move on from Phillip Rivers after this year?
I'll tell you what, if you asked me this in the beginning of the year, I thought you'd be crazy, but I didn't realize him to fall off the cliff the way he did, man. It's unbelievable. But to be honest, I think they have to bring him back because they don't have a backup plan right now unless they get someone like a Cam Newton. I mean, I wouldn't start a rookie right away with them. That team still has some potential. So whether you get a veteran or somebody else, I don't know. But, I mean, just don't take a Daniel Jones in that first round.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, unless they can sign a veteran in the offseason, like a Cam, if they wanted to take a shot at Kaepernick, or if for whatever reason Tua falls to them, you have to roll with Rivers because you don't have a succession plan in place, and you can't move to new stadium, new city with a nobody at quarterback as
and
a mediocre
on them
team.
Too.
Yeah, you need, and I'm not saying don't draft someone this year. Let him come up under Phillip Rivers for a little while. But yeah, you can't move off them yet. I know he looked really bad against Kansas, like really bad. But he's still not quite at that Eli level. He still has the tenacity. He still can make but his decision-making has been so bad. And he throws up too many ducks and too many prayer balls.
Who would have thought the 10th kid would be the dagger in his career, huh?
I know, seriously. He's got no juice left. All right, moving on to another team in that same division out in the AFC West. Are the Raiders a threat to win that division?
Boy, Chucky has this team playing well.
For real, man.
It's unbelievable. I mean, that first round, their first round class, we kind of gave him a little bit like, oh, we do it taking Colin Farrell in the first, second pick or whatever. And I mean, he's playing really well. Josh Dake's playing pretty well. They drafted a cornerback that's playing pretty well. But I don't think they're there yet this year to compete for the AFC West. I think they'll have wild card implications. I think the Chiefs wind up kind of running away with this a little bit.
All right, so I agree with you on one thing you said and disagree with you on another. Well, actually, no, I disagree with you on both.
So you don't think Chucky has his team playing well?
No, not right now. You said Cleveland Farrell has played really well. He really only played well last week. He has not looked good for the duration of the season. I know it's good because he shows potential, but for most of this year, Cleveland Farrell has shown that he should not have been their first draft pick. Josh Jacobs, though, has looked fantastic. I can't believe I'm saying this, but yes, they are absolutely a threat to win this division. And let me tell you why. So Kansas City obviously on a bye this week. Oakland gets the Jets. Can they beat the Jets?
I hope so. They struggle with Cincinnati a little bit, which is surprising.
They did.
I mean, it was never close, but they really never was able to put their foot on their throat.
Yeah, they weren't. So that concerns me a little. But they can beat the Jets. Then they get Kansas City that next week. And if somehow Oakland can really show up to play against Kansas City and get a game up on them, you know what their last games of the season are? Titans, Jags, Chargers, Broncos. You're telling me Oakland can't win those 4? Oakland could potentially run the table if they catch Kansas City napping off of a bye, if they're able to
When has Andy Reid ever napped off of a bye, though? He's like 17-1 off the bye.
I'm more concerned about the defensive side, man. That offense is going to put up points, but we saw this past week that Patrick Mahomes isn't always going to click. Now, do I believe that he can put up 30 against this Oakland team off a bye? Yeah. But do I think that David Carr and Darren Waller, or not David Carr, that's his brother, Derek Carr, Darren Waller, and Josh Jacobs can put up 4 or 5 touchdowns on that Kansas City defense, get to 30 points? Hell yeah, I do. And I don't have Kansas City's schedule ahead of them in front of me.
They have the Patriots at some point.
Yeah, exactly, though. Kansas City's got a much tougher schedule. The Raiders could go 11-5 even if they lose to Kansas City, and that could definitely win this division. I can't believe I'm saying it, but yeah, they got a shot, man. I was skeptical of John Gruden, and clearly him and Mike Mayock at least kind of know what they're doing.
And they have like 3 picks, or I forget what it was. They have like 5 picks in the next 100 next year or something.
Man.
It's absurd.
Can you imagine how good this team would have been if Antonio Brown decided to like shut up and actually freaking play? They'd be incredible. They'd be a 12-13 win team easy. Anyway, we got to move on. It's supposed to be rapid fire. Is Kirk Cousins leading the Vikings to a comeback win against the Denver Broncos, as well as his primetime win on Sunday against the Cowboys last week? Are those two things an indicator that he can finally be trusted in the big moments?
I think we're trending that way. Yeah, twice is pretty good. I mean, twice doesn't overcome the 30-some games he's played poorly in prime time. So,
Yep.
But I mean that comeback. I mean, that was something we haven't seen from Kirk in a while. Him putting the team on his back, 319 yards, 83% completion percentage, 3 touchdowns. I mean, it was good for him, but I'm not completely sold yet.
Yeah, I'm with you. Not completely sold yet, but just like you said, I think he's off to a good start. So on Sunday, he took advantage of the Denver Broncos putting single coverage on Stephon Diggs. And granted, he executed. They knew they were going to throw. He had to step up and deliver, and he made a comeback against a pretty solid Denver defense. And then that primetime win against Dallas, that was a Dalvin Cook show, but he did what he needed to do. This past weekend encourages me more just because, like you said, we haven't seen Kirk Cousins be the reason that his team is able to come back. Usually he's the type of quarterback that has to play within a really narrow margin and maybe get that game-winning throw or lead a game-winning drive, but as long as his team's in striking distance, this was a totally different story, so it was nice to see that he has the ability to do that. Okay, moving on to another quarterback. We're talking about the little guy, Kyler Murray. I want to know if you're convinced, based off of his play so far, that he's going to work out long-term in this Cliff Kingsbury offense.
Yeah, I think the big thing for Murray right now is he's not really turning the ball over. See Daniel Jones and the way he's turning the ball over.
And Kyle Allen.
Yeah, and Kyle Allen. I mean, you look at Kyle Murray. He's only had 5 picks. I'm not sure of fumbles. I know he's had a few. But, I mean, he's beginning to prove like he belongs. The size still scares me a little bit. But, hey, as long as you're not turning the ball over, you could be a good quarterback in this league.
Yeah, I'm not quite sold yet, but he really is better than I expected him to be earlier. And I'm not sure if that's all him or Cliff or both of them. But who knows? We'll talk about Kyler Murray now, so I'll attribute it to him. He has looked good. And that low turnover thing is a huge component. I believe, and this may have changed, I think I heard this stat last week somewhere, but he has thrown the lowest percentage of interceptable balls of all quarterbacks in the NFL this year. So he's clearly very smart with the football in his hands, and I think the ability to use his legs to escape trouble helps him there because he can always try that before he's trying to force a ball into tight coverage. But really, with quarterbacks like this, the second year is always the big one after teams have a chance to scout for you. They have some tape on you. Right. They know your tendencies against NFL defenses. But, man, I'm impressed. I'm optimistic about this guy.
Agreed.
Am still a little concerned with how small he is. That could, long-term, have a negative effect on him. But we'll see. And last question, and I saved it for the end because I feel like this may take a little longer than most rapid-fire questions. But, obviously, there was all this Colin Kaepernick workout drama going on throughout this week. Had a workout scheduled for Saturday. Last minute, Colin Kaepernick and his team changes the workout location, changes the time to an hour back to let everyone have a chance to travel. It was about 60 miles away from the original location. What's your take on how this went down? What are your feelings toward it?
Yeah, it was a straight shit show, man. I mean, from the start, from Tuesday, it was a shit show. NFL released, 24 teams were going to show up. Only 8 teams actually reportedly showed up to his new location. He wore his statement shirt. To me, I don't think it's about the game for him. I really don't. I think he's there to make a statement, which is fine. He can do whatever he wants. He's free to do whatever he wants. I just don't think he wants to play the game. I think he's there more to make a statement than play the game. I think the statement he's trying to make is bigger than football, and that's why I don't think a team will take a chance on him.
Yeah, so I'll start by saying both sides don't look very good here. And I'm going to try and be brief with this, but I'll start with the NFL. So it came out, the NFL had given Colin Kaepernick a waiver to sign, a workout waiver. They had told everyone, it was widely reported, this is the standard workout waiver given everyone at like the combine, individual workouts, etc. Well, just a day or two ago, it came out that was false. Now, I'm not sure. I haven't looked at the waiver yet, but there are discrepancies between the two, and this quote could be a bit of hyperbole, but Cap's agent said it would be, quote, malpractice to allow his client to sign this waiver. Okay. So I'm not sure exactly what it restricts. Obviously, we're on pretty tight time constraints. I don't have time to be reading legal documents, but I'm hoping to learn more about it soon just to have a better grasp. So that, along with not allowing any sort of media into the workout, which you pointed out to me when we had talked about it over the weekend, isn't standard for workouts. Well, this also is not a standard workout.
Nothing was standard.
If the NFL actually wanted to make this successful, they would have welcomed media coverage because everyone would have watched this. They would have gone to the NFL sites. It would have meant money for the NFL. So it was a little worrisome to me that the NFL did not want to let some cameras in because this really was made into an event. So that's why the NFL doesn't look great here. Now let's go to Cap. So I really did not have a huge problem with him changing the location of the workout. I think it was of detriment to him because more teams could not see him.
They cut it in like in 2/3.
Exactly. I think like 25 teams or representatives were going to be there. So it did hurt him there, but I didn't mind it. Him and his team had talked about the possibility. They set it up the night before because they kind of figured something like this was going to happen. That's fine. But then his attire choice, as well as his press conference afterwards, where he, instead of his lawyers, addressed the media about the legal gray area in the waiver, that to me showed that he wasn't willing. He's not willing to compromise at all with the NFL here. He's saying, I want to play, and I want to do this my way, and if I can't do it my way, well, then I'm going to have issues. Well, unfortunately, Cap, you put yourself in a position based off everything that's transpired, you're going to have to give a little if you want to have the privilege of playing in the NFL again. I know it's not 100% fair, but that's just the way it is. So to me, I agree with you. It shows that his priority was not 100% dedicated to football. Like, I get it. I never thought that this workout was set up to lead to jobs for Colin Kaepernick in the NFL. I thought it was a publicity stunt. Yep. And now I'm starting to think that it may have been a reason to get him to sign whatever waiver clauses there were. So who knows? I think the NFL is shady as hell with all this.
Oh, yeah,
But I also think it's clear because if you really just want the focus to be on you playing football, you don't wear that Kunta Kinte shirt. You just don't. And I have no problem with the shirt. No, but you know that it's
wear whatever you want.
You know it's going to change the narrative. Yeah. If you want the narrative to be, I'm here to play football. Honestly, there was part of me that thought that he was going to come out in full pads and a helmet and show that I'm going to deliver in as close to a game situation as I can. This is why I still deserve to be in the NFL. And I think if he would have done that, and it would have helped if we would have 25 teams instead of 8 looking at it.
Apparently the video went to all 32 teams.
He might have had a shot, but that's not the same. So, shit show for both teams. Both sides look no bueno.
I agree. I definitely agree.
Anyway, after that talk, you know what I need, man? I need some beer. But before we can drink our beer too much more, we're going to bring our producer James on, our house beer connoisseur, or basement beer connoisseur.
Basement beer connoisseur.
Our beer maitre d' of sorts. We're going to bring him on, and he's going to tell you a little bit about our brew of choice this week, Suddenly Comfy Imperial Cream Ale. So, without any further ado, James, guys. Here, take my seat.
Woo, James.
How we doing, practice squad? How you doing, Storm?
Nice
Good
cup.
to see you, buddy.
I just realized what kind of cup you got going on there.
Little rugby action going in the basement. Right. So this week it is. So we normally sponsor and promote Pennsylvania brews here, but this does have a Pennsylvania connection, even though Dogfish Head is out of Delaware. So Dogfish Head used to make a seasonal called Pennsylvania Tuxedo that was in collaboration with the Woolrich sweater company, which I am actually wearing a Woolrich sweater right now.
And
when I put it on, I feel suddenly comfy.
I like it.
So the great thing about this is that they discontinued the Pennsylvania Tuxedo, but this is their replacement. Woolrich pulled out, so whatever. This is Suddenly Comfy is their new one to replace that seasonal, and it's what they sell as on their website. This is brewed with apple juice, cinnamon, allspice, and vanilla beans. They promote it as they want to sell apple pie in a bottle. And when you taste it, it really does taste like you could have this right after Thanksgiving dinner. You can bring a 4-pack is only $11. highly recommend just buying a case. And you can share this at Thanksgiving, and I think everyone will. Trust me, your family will love it, and you will not be dissatisfied.
I think I'm going to be buying this for Thanksgiving. That's for sure.
Yeah, man, pass them.
Here's my dessert.
Pass them out.
It's delicious, man.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Hey,
Thanks
cheers.
for the beer.
Cheers, practice squad.
All right, now Angelo's got to come back.
Let's hear for Angelo coming back on the screen.
Boo. Thanks,
Eventually, we will have the budget and the cameras and the microphones to be able to not have to swap seats.
It'll be fun when we can just zone in on James from his little producer spot. You know?
Yeah, his very high-tech producer's corner over here
like
that you don't need to see.
Game Day does with Bear when it comes to betting. We'll just start focusing on him in his little corner with his shorts on.
Yeah,
or something
so eventually, I won't need to move because let's be real, it's a pain in the ass to get up for me. I don't want to move, but I'm a nice guy. James Producer's Bay is on my side, so I graciously offer to move off the camera for a minute. So you know what? It's for the good of the show.
Yeah, like you said, I'm the better looking one here. That's why you need to leave. So.
Exactly. Anyway, I'm sick of you, man. I need a break. So let's take a break, guys. All right, we've got a ton coming at you. And actually, before I do that, I do want to give a quick birthday shout out to my nephew, also named Angelo. He's celebrating his 7th birthday today. He got to go to, as I was telling Storm, he went to Shady Maple Smorgasbord, which is the damn best Pennsylvania Dutch buffet you gonna find this side of the Mississippi. So,
and while we're giving shout outs, we should also give one to Liz and Josh.
Oh, yes.
Congratulations on their baby boy, Mason, born on Friday, I think it was.
Their baby boy, Mason
Lee Powell.
Born only hours after the Pittsburgh Steelers' Mason Rudolph had his incident.
Yeah, it was like 3:30
No relation right there. That I'm pretty sure she was not watching the game.
No.
But anyway, a shout out to Liz and Josh Powell and their beautiful little baby boy, Mason. Shout out to my nephew, Angelo, on his 7th birthday. And shout out to Suddenly Comfy Imperial Cream Ale for what I'm sure is about to be a really relaxing and enjoyable break for us. So stick tight, guys, in the second half. We've got a bunch of NBA topics for you this week, a little bit more NFL to hit on, and as usual, Storm's going to hit you up with his betting advice of the week, and I'm going to try and roll off with a hot week I had last week and give you some DFS advice. So hopefully we'll make you some money. Welcome back, podcast listeners. This is the second half of the Practice Squad podcast. We're excited because we've got a ton coming to you in this half, but Storm's particularly excited right now because we just got some breaking news coming across the wire. And trust me, this is some real big news, guys.
Ben Simmons hit a 3. Woo!
I didn't believe it either. I did not think it was possible. I did not think it was possible for Ben Simmons to actually hit a 3-point shot, but he did. Congratulations to you and your Sixers.
They're actually losing to the Knicks, so it's pretty disappointing that that's happening.
Of course, Ben Simmons hits his only 3 of the season in a loss against the Knicks. That will just be way too perfect.
Life of a Philly fan, man.
Life of a Philly fan. Anyway, we do have to keep it moving. If you guys didn't notice, we did run a little long in that first half, so we're going to have to tighten up the second half a little bit. But don't worry, we're going to get you just as much jam-packed sports content in there as we possibly can. So let's start off with how we always like to start off the second half of our show, and that's with a little betting advice from Storm here. So, Storm, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, as promised, we bounced back from a slow week 2 weeks ago. We came in last week at 4-2. That's not including the parlay I threw out. That was more for fun thing. If you wanted to take a chance at it, that wasn't one of the things I was throwing, putting on my plays. It was just something for fun. So right now on the season, we're 32-20. We're just under 63%, sitting very pretty heading into the final stretch of the season here to make us a couple more bucks before we head into February, March, into the slower months. So with that being said, San Diego State, Florida, Jets, and New Orleans all were winners. Michigan State got whooped upon, unfortunately, and then Oakland had every chance to go over 10. Couldn't do it. I don't know. It was so sad. I thought they would have. They should have. They really should have. They had every opportunity, but they didn't. On that note, Let's start off with the game of the week we talked about earlier, and that was Penn State, Ohio State. We're not taking sides here. We are playing the over 56.5. Listen,
I like that.
I would play this line anytime under 60. As long as you get at 59.5, I'll play the over there. Okay, but if it's under 60 or at 60, I wouldn't chance it. I mean, if you're better, yeah, why not? But that's my limit. When the line is between 50 and 60 points, Ohio State is 3-1 on the over, while Penn State's 2-2. So they're both hitting it as to a point. Also, both of these teams, I mean, you've seen them. They both put up points anytime. You mentioned.
Oh yeah, we talked about it earlier.
Ohio State's averaging 51 points a game. Yeah, so you look at that. Both teams, 3 of their last 4 games, the over has hit, so they're running on that trend as well. So really, all trends are here. It's like. The over is the play. You look at the spread at 18 points. 56 is pretty minimal at that point. When you look at Ohio State, it's probably going to put up 35 points. Penn State's going to put up at least, I think they'll put at least 24 to 27 points. So, at that point, I know, but it'll be there. Trust me.
I agree with you. I do like the over there.
So we'll play the over there. My second college game, we're going Michigan -9 at Indiana. I don't know what it is. Michigan's been the hottest offensive team since that second half of Penn State game. And you know what? I'm going to roll with them this week a little bit. The quarterback, Shea Patterson, quotation quarterback, because he really hasn't been playing all that well. He's averaging 9.7 yards per completion right now. No idea where that's coming from. He's completing about 67% of his passes. I just think the Michigan offense is rolling. I think they'll be a little too much for Indiana. I'll take them with 9 points there. Those two. So we'll do the over in the Penn State Ohio State game, and then Michigan -9 for Saturday, and then for Sunday, let's have a little fun. Let's take the under.
I like fun.
Under 39 in the Pittsburgh Cincinnati game.
Ooh, under 39.
Under 39. Now listen, Juju already was pretty much confirmed out. James Conner, who knows? Deontay Smith, I think. Deontay Johnson. I think he's out. Cincinnati can't put up points. They got basically shut out by Baltimore and put up 10 against Oakland, who doesn't have a good defense.
True.
And they only had 73 passing yards against Oakland, who really, their secondary isn't that good.
Yeah, I think Pittsburgh's secondary is a little better than that.
Right, yeah, exactly. That's what it's going to lead into. Pittsburgh's secondary defense as a whole is pretty good. Cincinnati may put up a field goal, maybe a touchdown. Pittsburgh's not putting up much more, 14, 17 points. I mean, they haven't really scored on offense, unless the defense sets them up pretty. Even then, I don't see them scoring much. You're missing Marquise Pouncey as well. Who knows what Mason Rudolph's going to be like after last week. So I'm going to take the under there. We're going to have a little fun. And unfortunately, I'm sorry you're not going to like this one. On Monday night, I'm taking the Ravens -3 to come over there and roll on the Rams.
Is that all that spread is? 3?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I take it.
It opened at 1.5.
How?
Can you believe it?
How?
It opened at 1.5. So
Since when did home field in L.A. give you a 10-point swing?
Well, that's what I was just going to say. In their last 4 games, the Rams have given up 40-plus points to their opponents, or averaging 40-plus points to their opponents. With that offense of, Lamar and crew, they are rolling right now. Would you say about the offense of the Rams? They're not doing much.
Not good.
And this D line is probably going to eat that Rams O line, giving Goff a lot of pressure, which we know he hasn't succeeded well on. So yeah, I'm taking the Ravens to come in there and handle the Rams. I'm sorry, I know, but 3 is just too.
No,
pretty.
I'm shaking my head because I might have to bet that game on the Ravens with that line, man.
It's ridiculous. I'm surprised it's not a little higher. I do expect it to go up a little bit. So if you want to jump on it early, I would definitely jump on it earlier rather than later. Even at 5, I'd probably take. I think they win by at least a touchdown. So
be surprised if they don't lose by 3 touchdowns, man. I'm serious.
So as always, or as we started the last couple weeks, I will try to throw more picks out on social media. So get a look out for us at TPS Pod on Twitter, the Practice Squad Podcast on Facebook. We don't have an Instagram yet. Get on that. YouTube, I'm not going to put anything on YouTube.
Yeah.
So
unless you want to make your own personal videos.
No, so just look
you do your own little blog or vlog post. That'd be cute. That'd be real cute.
Get out of here. Just look at Facebook and Twitter. I'll throw some more Saturday and Sunday, maybe a game or 2 to have some fun. So just to recap, we have the over 56.5 Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan -9 at Indiana, the under 39 of Pitt, Cincinnati, and Baltimore -3 against the Rams.
Man, I thought it was bad enough. This is the first week all season, maybe I'm just a homer, that I'm actually just picking against the Rams in my pick'em pool. I may have to put money down against the Rams this week against that 3.5, 4.5, 5.5. I'd take it.
Yeah,
I'd take it.
You almost have to.
You do.
I don't know why Vegas set it so low, which is concerning a little bit, to be honest.
It is.
To grab some of that money, but the way it jumped from 1.5 to 3.5 in some places, there's definitely getting some smart action early. So when they read a line like that, you'll see it get hit.
Yeah, so guys, if you're one of the people that listens to the podcast or watches it right when it comes out, you're in luck because you might be able to jump on this line that it seems like is going to continue to increase
It'll
up
increase
until
for
Sunday.
sure. Yep.
All right. Anyway, thank you. Excuse me. Jeez. Thank you for that, Storm. Hopefully we have another winning week from you. Fingers crossed. I know you made me a little bit of money last week, so
we had a good week last week.
For that, I am thankful. Anyway, we have to move on. We're going to talk a little bit of NBA now, and we were going to devote a little bit more time to this. However, like we said, we did go over in the first half. We got to cut off some extra stuff in the second half. So we're going to do this a bit like we do our NFL Rapid Fire. Just try and give some real quick, concise answers about these 5 NBA topics that we have here. So let's just jump right into it. The big one being that Carmelo Anthony last week signed with the Portland Trail Blazers. Storm, I would like to know if you think this is going to work out for both Carmelo and Portland.
Yeah, he had his debut the other night, and it didn't look good, all right? He was minus 20, which was a team worse. 4 of 11 shooting, 10 points. He was 2 of 3 from 3, so that was kind of encouraging because I think that's the kind of role the Blazers are going to look from Carmelo. It's going to be I know he started the other night, but I think someone sat. I can't remember who it was, but I think they're going to look for him to come off the bench to be a 3-point shooter. And for this to work, Carmelo just has to accept his role. He can't be over there shooting 15, 20 shots a game. You know, they're going to give him about 10 to 15 minutes. He can't go crazy, do his job, hit a few threes, and, move forward. But to me, the Blazers are still shot, regardless. I mean, the Carmelo signing was just it was just desperation for them, really, at this point.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I do hope it works because I do like Carmelo Anthony as a player, and if it were going to work anywhere, this is the situation in which it might. They lost Collins for a while. They're without Nurkic right now. They need some firepower, and I agree with you. He should come off the bench and just be kind of a quick moment scorer for them. What's the word I'm looking for?
Sharpshooter.
He'll be kind of like
Running
a spark
gun.
plug for the team. Yeah.
Come off the bench,
exactly.
hit a 3.
Like bring a spark off the bench, hit a couple of threes. I just don't know if his offense is at the level where it can account for how little defense he plays. And he's never played a lot of defense.
Yeah, that was always
But
his
he used
thing.
to be able to drop 35 at the drop of a hat. But that was in a different NBA where people shot a bunch of mid-ranges, and that's not the case anymore. He's never been a three-point specialist. So maybe he changes his game for that. So I hope it works. The opening is there for him.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure if he's at the point as a player where he can actually capitalize on it anymore.
Yeah.
Which is a shame because I like Melo. I do.
Yeah, I mean, if he just accepts his role, I think he'll be okay. And I think he'll ride out the year for him and maybe give him an opportunity next year. But
yeah, I
we'll
hope
see.
so. Moving a little further out west to the coast, we're going to talk about the LA Lakers real quick. And even though they've gotten off to a really hot start, as of yesterday, they were 11-2. I'm not sure if they had a game last night, but I think that's one of the tough parts about prepping for this show with the NBA guys. Shit's always changing. But anyway, they got off to a hot start. But they've been utilizing LeBron a lot. He's playing around 38 minutes a game, averaging, 28, 11, and 6.
Balling out.
Yeah, it's looking good. Do you think that the Lakers are too dependent on LeBron right now and that they're making a mistake by overworking him this early in the season?
Yeah, I definitely think it's a concern. I mean, we all know LeBron is a physical specimen. I mean, this guy comes out, balls. I know there was a little concern, a couple injuries in the second half last season, so people thought he might start getting washed. He's clearly proven that wrong. He had a triple-double the other night, so now he has a triple-double versus every team in the NBA, which is unbelievable. Like that's
ridiculous.
That's just so impressive. But yeah, I kind of thought the point of bringing AD in was to take some of the heat off of LeBron. And while AD's playing well, it's more on the defensive side, even though he's had his offensive output. Yeah, I think they need to. I mean, you look at a team like LA who's sitting Kawhi. I mean, why not sit LeBron a game here and there and have a little faith in AD, Kyle Kuzma, and that crew?
Yeah, real quick, I did just make a mistake. I said LeBron was averaging 28. I believe he's averaging 24 because AD's averaging more than him, up around 26 and a half, 27.
But it still feels like the offense is completely running through LeBron where it should be running through AD.
But that doesn't make me concerned. So I know his numbers might be high, his minutes, his points, etc., but I don't think they're working too hard. You watch the Lakers, and they play at the slowest pace, I think, at least bottom 3 slowest paces in the NBA. And LeBron is running that point a lot now, so he's not getting beat up quite as much as he is on the inside. He's not having to work off the ball too much. He really is being a facilitator. I do still believe he's feeding the ball to Anthony Davis, trying to run the offense through him. And honestly, this is what LeBron's legacy is built on. It's the longevity and his ability to play almost full seasons, to stay healthy. And I think that groin injury was kind of a freak accident.
Oh, for sure.
Nothing you can obviously prepare for or anything like that. So I think LeBron is doing this right now to get his team momentum early. I think he wants his dudes to gain some confidence, really get into a flow early so they're not where they were last season where they're panicking late in the season. Everything is falling apart. Get ahead of the curve now. If you have to work out some kinks, if you add a free agent in the middle of the season, it isn't going to knock you from like a 4th to a 7th seed or anything like that. I'm not concerned at all. I do think you'll see him bring it back a little bit post-Christmas and then really amp it up right before the playoffs come around. Anyway, keeping it in L.A., we've got 2 questions about the Clippers. We're going to start with the gentleman who just made his debut last week. I'm talking about Paul George, who absolutely lit it up shooting-wise in his first couple games back. So what's your reaction to how Paul George has looked since returning from that injury with the Clippers?
Wow. Unbelievable. This guy is just playing really, really well right now. I mean, you look, he's played 3 games so far. He's averaging 24.3 minutes, 29.3 points, 6.7 rebounds, and 3.7 assists. Dude is shooting 56% from the field and 52% from 3. He's the top 10 player we saw prior to injury who might have been in MVP contention.
Yeah, before the shoulder.
That's how he's looking right now. And I know they're 2-1. They haven't had Kawhi in any of those 3 games, but tonight is the first night.
Yep, he comes back against the first
night they play together. And, man, if I was not an old man, I'd like to stay up and watch that game.
Yeah, I mean, Paul George, I will admit, he has looked a lot better than most people do coming off of an injury. And I think we're seeing what we all know Paul George to be. He's a really unique scorer with his size and obviously an elite defender. He's what every team wants in their small forward. My concern with him has always been his performance in big games when it matters and his durability. He does have an injury history. Now, obviously, Kawhi is the guy, but I'm sure they're going to rely on PG a couple of times in the playoffs or in big games, and I want to know how he executes then. So he's looked good. I'm not putting that much stock into it yet, though.
Yeah, I mean, for with that team itself, it's not going to come until the playoffs anyway.
No,
they're guaranteed a 1 through 3 seed, I'm sure.
I don't even know, but they're guaranteed to get in, and once they get in, we'll really see what the Clippers are made of. So kind of keeping with that thought, you just mentioned tonight is Kawhi's first game back, but before this, he had missed 3 straight. It's kind of vague as to whether it's injury or load management or kind of mixture of both, but should we be worried about Kawhi's health or the amount of load management that he's had this early on in the season?
Yeah, I mean, do you think he was just giving a middle finger to the NBA for them finding the team a little bit for being like, I don't know. But there is a tad concern. I mean, we have to look at it. He missed, I think it was 22 games last year in the regular season to load management, and he's a little above that pace right now. I think he said, 5 he's missed already?
Yeah, I think he's missed 5 already.
So, yeah, I mean, there's definitely a little concern. I'm not there yet, though. We'll see what happens after Christmas going into the All-Star break and stuff to see if we should really be concerned about his health.
Yeah, I'm not concerned. It just kind of sucks as an NBA fan. I get what the Clippers are doing. You're trying to conserve the guy who can lead you to a championship because that's best. That's what's best for your team. And Kawhi has shown he isn't the most durable of superstars. Even last year with having those 22 games off, he still kind of limped to the finish line.
Right.
So I get it. But, as a fan, he's going to miss 25-30% of this season, and that's just kind of a bummer.
Pay all that money for the tickets people pay to watch them on TV.
So once again, I get it from a franchise perspective. I'd probably do the same if I was in the front office for the Clippers. But, for all those people bringing their kids to the game, for when you get excited that they're showing a Clippers game on TNT one night and you get all amped up and Kawhi's not in there, it's just a bummer.
Yeah, the first 2 games he missed were primetime televised games, nationally televised
I know,
games.
and that's what pissed the NBA off.
I think that's why they did it. But, it is what it is. I don't blame him for sitting him either. If you're not feeling up to it, don't play.
Yeah, well, someone who has been feeling up to it has been James Harden, and he's been showing it by averaging just shy of 40 points so far this year.
39 and a half right now.
It's ridiculous. It's over 39. So, first question, 2-parter right here. Is James Harden averaging, if he averages 40 points a game for the season, is it a big deal?
Yeah, you're damn right. 40 points per game for a season is ridiculous, and he's doing it with Russell Westbrook, who's also a ball-dominant player. And don't get me wrong, Westbrook's getting his too. He's getting like 24.5 points per game. I think it's impressive. I don't care. I mean, I know he shoots like 50 shots a game, obviously exaggerating, but
a lot of free throws.
Yeah, a lot of free throws, and they're winning. I mean, they're third in the West right now, so whatever works.
Impressive, yes. Big deal, not unless they get to the finals. That's
Yeah.
really all I have to say. I know James Harden can average 40.
Yeah.
I know that. My question is, can he average 28 a game in the playoffs, leading up